10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 on the radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca on the internet. Just trying to get my camera situated here a little bit better. We're also streaming live at facebook.com/Sudbury News everywhere in the world except for Sudbury and Canada due to the provincial government's policies prohibiting news from being posted or any news organizations having a Facebook page. Anyone else posting any news from local, regional, provincial, national, or international news, our federal government has made a policy that prohibits news from being shared on the world's largest social media platform. We're the only country in the world that has this policy, that has Facebook, that's not able to share news. There's some countries that prohibit the use of Facebook altogether. And I will propose, I'll put it out there, that it's for the same reasons. It's for the government does not want people to be sharing certain information with each other. It comes down to that. That's my personal belief, but they can still have the illusion that, no, we still have Facebook, but we want journalists to make more money, and so it's the big bad Facebook that's not paying our journalists. But every other journalist in every other country, do you know how many countries there are in the world? Canada's just one with a very low population compared to many countries. But our country feels that our government has to stand up for our journalists to get Facebook to pay them when every other country's fine without it, because even the journalists in Canada were fine without it. But for some reason, our government's taken it upon themselves to help journalists by just paying them from your tax dollars instead. How about, okay, we're going to take you off Facebook. I know it's the best platform for sharing news, and I know it builds your audience, and it's so perfect for news to be shared. I know. Look, how about we just pay your salary, and you won't have to worry about it? Okay? Sound good? All right? Everyone okay here? All right. What about those independent journalist guys? No, don't worry about those. We're not going to pay those guys. We know that they have a tendency of spreading misinformation, right? So they're not the real news, the ones that we could pay and control. I mean, the ones that we can rely on, right? The ones that we only allow into our press conferences. We don't allow certain news organizations, so-called news organizations, into our press conferences because they ask us real questions. That kind of thing. So that's our country today. Elbows up. And we're live on youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow, because we need to get the YouTube numbers up now because we're just under 500. We've never really concentrated on YouTube. Facebook was our main platform because it was the largest and it was the easiest to share. It was the easiest to comment on. It was the easiest for everything because it is a cool platform when it comes to being social, sharing and talking to each other. That's what it was invented for. YouTube, not so much. You can't talk with each other and share things with each other. It's a little harder. You know, it's you can just talk at the video. You can make a comment on someone else's comment. You can't really, it's not as easy. You can only share videos, or you can only comment on other people's videos. You can't like share a video. Someone goes, are you constantly on someone else's YouTube channel? Are you surfing YouTube channels to see what everyone else is saying? No, it's just not made for that. But it's the main channel that we have now. And so I would just encourage everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel and build that audience until then they notice that we're building a big audience and find a reason to say when somebody complains from the city or the local media or whoever is complaining, then they'll say, oh, too many people are watching that now. We've got to shut that down. But let's build that up at least, See if we can have the same amount of followers on our YouTube that we did on our Facebook. We were just about at 11,000. Should have been at about 30,000 by this point on Facebook, but due to their algorithms and the way they handle things, it was really hard to build up 10,000 people. I had to work really hard at that. And yeah, so we'll be found on demand on YouTube, found on demand on x.com/Sudbury News, found on demand at sudbury.news after the broadcast this morning. Remember, it's Pledge Week next week for CKLU. Been around since 1984. A campus and community radio station. What a treasure to have right here in Greater Sudbury. What an amazing thing to have where you can have volunteers from the community host a show, whether it's their favorite music they have, they want to share that with everyone. They have a topic that they are really interested in. They can volunteer at too if they're just interested in behind the scenes, interested in radio or broadcasting. It's just it's an amazing, like I said, it's a treasure to have in Sudbury. And so we rely on support from people like yourself. So make sure to support us. All you do is you go to cklu.ca. There's an easy way to just click the donate button and away you go. You can even purchase some of our merch that we have. We have really cool CKLU t-shirts. We have cool hats, all kinds of stuff. You can check it out on the website. And remember that you are the you in CKLU. It is your campus and community radio station. We'll be back with the weather, some morning shout outs, some local stories, maybe some deep dives, all kinds of stuff as we try to make sense of a ever increasingly confusing world. There was apparently a shooting at a school in BC. I've noticed Sudbury Star headlines this morning. I haven't really looked into that yet. It says 10 dead, including suspect. How convenient. After mass shooting in BC high school. RCMP. There's been some mass shootings involving RCMP. Oh, it's going coast to coast now. Remember Nova Scotia? Now we got BC. I'm always leery of these things, as one should be, but we'll be back right after the weather to talk about that and more. Stay tuned. And Sudbury Weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. There's no Environment Canada alerts in effect at the moment, but we have light snow. It's -5 with the wind chill, -13 today. Expect light snow. Wind gusting to 40 degrees, high of -6, wind chill -10 this morning, -15 in the afternoon. Mainly cloudy with a 40% chance of flurries later in the day. Low of -14, wind chill near -18. Tomorrow, sunny. Wind chill high of -6, wind chill -20 in the morning, -8 in the afternoon. Cloudy periods overnight with a low of -10. Then Friday, cloudy with a 40% chance of flurries, showers. Well, it is. 0 is the high, so 40% chance of flurries on Friday. And then Saturday, mix of sun and cloud, -1, and 30% chance of flurries on Sunday. 30% chance of flurries on Monday with a high of +1. 0 degrees on Tuesday, mix of sun and cloud. So you still have chances of precipitation, which some people are still happy about, if you can imagine that. But it is what it is, and that is our weather. And we'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, so we are back. I just noticed the light for my camera is on my one device, and that's because I'm sharing the device, I would think. Stories of the day. Well, there's lots to get to. Some shout outs just to get some shout outs out of the way. Homestead Trad Wife, good morning. You're first to the YouTube party this morning. Morning, Monique. Hope you're having a good morning. You got the snow. You got the prayer emojis going on. Larry, good morning, fellow Canadians. And good morning, people. That's Northern Hillbilly. Good morning to you. You go on to say, it's the Great Awakening against the Great Reset. It's very important to know our history. You got to know history. What do they say? History repeats itself. Anyways, the saying just isn't coming to me right now. It's bound to repeat if you don't learn from history. It's bound to repeat itself, something along those lines. Good morning to Marianne from Barrie. And Belinda, good morning. It's easier to fool people than it is to convince them. They've been fooled. Wow, that's so true. It's easier to fool people than to convince them. And our world is a huge world of illusion. 100 million trillion %. One quick dub, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. And speaking of that, I might have a really cool video for us. Speaking of being duped and fooled, really cool interview with the Y-Files guy and Tucker Carlson, talking about energy of the last 150 years or so and how many really cool inventions have been made for energy, like the water engine to run on water, just free energy, just the little box that can give you all the energy you need. All kinds of inventions, and all these inventors, they either get paid off or they go missing or they commit suicide, and all their information and all their research goes missing. And there's tons of examples of that, of history, talking about history. So maybe we'll do a deep dive there today. That'd be fun. Okay. Let's see here. Just a few more morning. Bingo, good morning to you. You got, the people need to stay focused. As bad as what happened in BC, and many, my heart goes out to those affected. Stay focused, for sure. Yes, no. Any of these tragedies, which, again, right? Larry, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Hazel, good morning. Everyone, you got the prayer emoji now. It's there up on the screen. It's not just a ... anymore. And Miles, good morning to you. Stop Bill C-15. Updated conflicts of interest will be exempt. That's right. Unabated conflicts of interest will be exempt for sure. I got a video on that too, so maybe we'll do one of those and one of the Y-Files ones as soon as we can get to it this morning. So sad about British Columbia. That's right. In the high school shooting. It's crazy. Goes with, condolences to the families, for sure. Good morning to you, Andrew. Thanks for being on so early this morning. Great to see you here. Has anyone noticed Facebook has gone to crap? That's Larry. I'm on Facebook less now because I don't have any reason to be on it too much. A lot of condolences for the people in BC going out from all of our viewers here who are full of compassion, different from what they are accused of from some people in the city, saying they're a bunch of haters. That's what someone said about you guys from the city of Greater Sudbury, representing a section of them anyways, said there's just a bunch of hateful people on the show. And I was like, really? I never noticed any. So that's interesting. And Dwayne, good morning to you. Timmons, yes. How's the weather in Sudbury? Well, light snow after we got a pounding yesterday of more snow. Cold. Well, actually, it's not as cold today, but it will be cold tonight. And then we're going to get a little milder weather coming in the near future. Some more condolences coming in for the people in BC. Very sad. We need to know more about that coming up. But in the meantime, Brian, good morning to you. Sudbury Patriots. Sorry, Sudbury Pats. Yeah, that's your emoji you got there. Okay, so someone finally found us on, it's Steph, I think Stefan, looks like. Finally found us catching up here on YouTube. Yeah, not easy. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell, I guess is the terminology, the lingo, to know when we are going to be going live. Larry says amen for CKLU, long standing. Remember, next week is our pledge week here at CKLU. Make sure to get involved in any way, shape, or form that you can. Trying to see anyone else who's joining us here. Yes, got a couple here. Bingo was in, what does that even say? Tumbler Ridge last summer on our travels. Nice little town. I'm thinking that's BC. And good morning to Evelyn. Thanks for being on. I know you've been busy shoveling a lot of snow there lately. And yeah, we're going to be along with Sleeping Giant. I'm calling the same thing. Whenever there's these federal agencies involved, they've been shown time and again that there's nefarious things that go on for agendas that need to be pushed forward, and nothing pushes forward an agenda, unfortunately, like our children being affected in negative ways, if you know what I mean. It's a dark thing to talk about, and I apologize, but it's just there's too much evidence of it in the world. CIA in the States, FBI, RCMP in Canada, and CSIS. Yeah, maybe that's for another show. Okay, so a couple of local headlines here that we're covering. Look at this. Province-wide probe into police corruption called by Inspector General of Policing. Right? We've asked our handy-dandy ChatGPT to break down the story for us because it just saves a little bit of time and it sums everything up. Ontario Inspector General of Policing Ryan Teschner has announced that an independent province-wide inspection of all 45 police services and their boards following a major corruption investigation that led to charges against 7 active and 1 retired Toronto police officer. The charges stem from York Regional Police's Project South investigation. They need a Project North one as well, but into organized crime and corruption, which alleges offenses including conspiracy to commit murder, shootings, extortion, drug trafficking, bribery, and authorized access to confidential police information 2 additional Toronto officers have since been suspended. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow welcomed the review, saying public trust has been shaken and systemic changes may be needed. Maybe our new partnership with the Chinese police will help with this kind of stuff. Right, Olivia? The inspection launched under Ontario's Community Safety and Policing Act will not focus on prosecuting individuals, but instead examine systemic safeguards across policing in the province. An external investigator will be appointed with full statutory authority to assess or access necessary information, and findings will be released publicly. The review will focus on 5 key areas. So listen to these 5 key areas: supervision and span of control, recruitment, screening, and ongoing vetting, access to police databases, evidence and property management, and substance abuse and fitness for duty, with the goal of strengthening oversight and restoring public confidence in policing. Maybe our Chinese partnership with the Chinese police will indeed do that. It'll create more public trust, and they have certain tools and things that they've learned that can help with our policing, right? Isn't that something everyone is in agreement with? Right? So that's what our federal government has just done. They've made a partnership between the RCMP and the Chinese similar police to bolster the way policing is done in Canada. Sudbury's planning committee, this is in local news here, voted 4-1 to approve rezoning of 1081 Atlee. So this is an ongoing thing. You know, there's a housing crisis. The city's trying to get new housing, but we got all this red tape and stuff that we used to have and we still have. We have for certain people and not for other people. You know, you see these projects that go ahead and you're like, wait a minute, did they get city approval for this? Like there's a certain house on Paris Street that's right on Nepewan Lake, and it's like there's no property almost between the house and the lake, and I'm like, that looks to have, you know, gone past every single city bylaw there is. Like, how did that get built? But certain people can build things like that in the city and certain people can't, and that's just the way the city runs and has run, and who knows if it will continue to run this way. But they're voting on this particular development on Atlee, and to allow construction of a single-story, 8-unit row dwelling. Despite vocal opposition from neighbors, city staff recommended approval, saying the project aligns with provincial and municipal planning policies, supports climate goals. It supports climate goals? Well, right on. Makes efficient use of serviced land, is close to transit, and helps address Sudbury's housing shortage, particularly the need for additional rental units to meet vacancy targets and the city's goal of building 3,800 homes by 2031. Several residents objected, concerns about traffic, safety, privacy, parking, noise, property values, and neighborhood compatibility. So those are the issues that some residents had about this particular project. A heated exchange occurred between planning chair, Councillor Fern Cormier, and a neighborhood owner who felt the development would negatively affect his quality of life. Right? Like, I'm sure everyone has a benchmark for their quality of life, and that's why if you can choose where you live, they've chosen where they live, and it's a valid concern, you would think. Another speaker raised traffic safety issues and questioned whether transitional housing could be introduced. Through developer Adam Martell said the project is intended as senior-orientated housing, not transitional housing. Despite objections, councillors determined the proposal met planning requirements and approved the rezoning of Atlee Street for this particular project to go in. Now we have, let's see if I have this here. Didn't mean to do that. Yeah, here it is, Bill C-15, that will give companies like Brookfield, with the conflict of interest we have in place, like Carney is heavily invested in Brookfield, used to be the vice chair or the chair of Brookfield, heavily invested. He makes all kinds of money off Brookfield, and Brookfield's companies are getting Canadian contracts, right? So is there a conflict of interest? He's making money off the very decisions he's making. Well, the best thing to do in this case is change the law. Change the law so you're not breaking it anymore, right? So that's what they're doing with Bill C-15. And then you have, the most slimiest politician being questioned here about it. It's just too slimy to even, ouch. So you'll have a listen for yourself. You let me know if this is slimy or not. It's Mark Miller. Mark Miller is one of the slimiest politicians I've ever listened to. But anyways, that's my personal opinion. You can have your own personal opinion. You listen to how he answers these questions. Being asked, what's going to happen when you change the law where there's no more conflicts of interest, where a prime minister like Mark Carney can just give his own company contracts and personally enrich himself, and now they're changing the law. So, hey, this sounds kind of slimy, right? Let's listen to his answers.
Being it then from this bill?
From C-15?
Yep.
No.
Why not?
Well, it's not my job to remove it, but it's a useful tool to have in the context, particularly if we're trying to get things done in a rapid fashion.
Well, the concern is that you are able to make decisions on your own, based on your prerogative, behind closed doors, with no accountability to Parliament or to Canadians. And so in your remarks, you talked about protecting what makes Canada unique, being a democracy, that this clause is undemocratic. So why would you like to keep it?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Why would you like to keep the clause if it is undemocratic? You can exempt any company or entity or person, individual, from almost any federal law except for the criminal code on your own, with no public disclosure behind closed doors.
Well, like I said, it's not an indispensable tool. It's a helpful tool to have. These clauses are often interpreted by courts on a standard of reasonableness in the context. And in the context that we are seeing with things moving very rapidly, I think it is important for us to be able to have some nimbleness.
It's a helpful tool to have if you're a totally corrupt government like we have right now.
But if there is no accountability to the public, and you are not actually, you don't have to disclose what Conflict of Interest Act was violated or anything like that, then I don't think that's in the best interest of the country.
Well, first, this is a bill on which members will be asked to vote. It is also one where my belief is to be able to use that tool is one that should be used sparingly, but again, useful to have in the context.
But why should one individual minister, be allowed to bypass 150 years of Canadian law and exempt a person or company of their choosing?
Yeah, look, that may be your view, but I don't think that is what's happening.
Well, that's how it's written.
It may be your view. They're changing the law. They're changing the law. So that way Mark Carney, who's heavily invested in Brookfield, which is heavily invested in the United States, 90-something% of his investments are in the United States. So every decision he's making right now that Canada is suffering with enriches Mark Carney. And then all these contracts that he's given with Canadian taxpayers' money in Canada to build these homes and things, he owns the companies that builds the homes through Brookfield. All the energy that's going to be supplying these electric cars that he's just made a partnership with China to bring all these electric cars, which they say are not going to spy on us. Just take their word for it. They're not going to spy on us. The actual energy that's going to be taken to charge these EVs are going to be from a Brookfield company. then he's going to enrich himself. So that's just 2 examples of thousands of conflicts of interest, which he's able to give contracts to a company that he personally enriches himself off. So they're just changing the law now, saying no more conflicts of interest because we're in such a dire situation. We need to just move these projects forward. Enough of this conflict of interest stuff. You shouldn't be petty, just change the law. So she just says there's been 150 years of law that you're just throwing out the window now, which when you change a law, that's what you do. You're not going by the laws that were in place. You're putting in a new law to bypass the laws so that you can do something that would have been deemed corrupt by the law that you're changing. But if you change it, it's no longer corrupt anymore. You're not doing anything wrong. We just changed the law, so now we're law abiding, right? So there's nothing to see here, no more conflict of interest being looked into. So that way we can have a prime minister who owns a company who just gives all the contracts to himself. And that's what you would think someone like Putin would be doing, right? With these oligarchs and stuff. But no, it's happening right here in Canada, right under our noses. And where's the mainstream media talking about this, right? We'll continue with this conversation.
It doesn't say people are being exempted from 150 years of law.
It says from any federal law except the criminal code.
Right. There's no mention of years or...
It's any federal law except
Sure.
for the criminal. So it's any federal law that has been passed over the last 150 years.
Right. I'm not going to parse this out with you.
So just to be clear, you don't need it to do your job, but you want to keep it nonetheless.
I think it's helpful to have.
Do you see the potential of abuse, though, in that companies or people will have to lobby you personally?
Of course he sees the potential of abuse. That's why they have it.
And not care about the law itself.
No one's asked me to overturn any laws.
You would have the ability to.
No one's asked him to overturn any laws. Did you hear him say that? No one's asked me to overturn any laws. You don't have to overturn any laws when you change the law because you just changed it. There's no overturning. You see the sliminess of this, not only person, but party he represents. This is what they're doing. They're taking their leader, and you don't think that there's something in it for all of the members of the elite of the Liberal Party? You don't think Mark Carney's giving them a slice of the pie? Is anyone looking into what companies they're invested in? Right? Is anyone looking into that? Getting personally enriched? Would it be the first time someone in government has used their position to personally enrich themselves? No. This is just one way they're doing it. Just change the law, give all these contracts to the prime minister's, invested in companies. So that way he can personally enrich himself. And hey, there's something in it for you too. You put some investments in these companies, you'll get personally enriched too. Just go along with the program, right? So that's what they are doing. When they're really asked these questions, listen to their answers. They're just slimy.
In some contexts, perhaps. But again, this is something that would have to be used very judiciously.
And do you trust them to use it very judiciously? Just trust us. We'll have to use it with caution. We'll have to, only certain times we're going to use this law. Really? You're going to give them carte blanche to just get rid of the Conflict of Interest Act and use it at their discretion because you trust them? Sure.
How could you possibly think that this would not undermine the trust in our democracy then?
I think Canadians expect us to act reasonably. I think Canadians expect us to be judicious in our...
No, we expect you to follow the law like we all have to. We don't expect you to change the law and then just act like the law was there before. That's what you're doing. Judiciously, that's a term used in law. That's a judge. That's law. Act lawfully, but don't change the law and then act lawfully.
Decision making. Passing a law like C-15, which all members will have the opportunity to vote on, is something that is inherently accountable in and of itself.
Well, it has this particular clause that is very problematic. It is all over the news. I have a letter with 43 organizations asking for you to strike it because of the potential of abuse, but you still want to keep it.
I think I've answered that question about 3 times now.
I just don't find it reasonable for you to have the powers of a king, essentially.
Certainly don't have the powers of a king.
Moving it then from this bill?
From C-15?
Yep.
I usually don't name call, right? But well, I guess I did already call him slimy. But I don't know. What's your point of view? Even if you're a liberal, like can't you tell when someone's lying? And do you agree that we should get rid of the Conflict of Interest Act? Do you agree that even if you're liberal, as long as your guy is in, what if Polyev gets in next? And they've changed the law already, and Polyev starts some big company, and he's just awarding all these government contracts to his business. Would you then be mad because he's conservative and he's breaking conflict of interest laws? Then you'd be upset because he's conservative. As long as liberals do it, it's fine. As long as liberals break the law, I'm okay with it. But as soon as a conservative does it, then I got an issue with it. Really? Give your head a shake. This is nonpartisan. You change the law so you can be corrupt, because you can't be corrupt with the law the way it is. That's corruption. That's the definition of corruption. Breaking the law, right? It's just the mafia that we have installed in our government. That's what they are. Oh, these law things? Oh, they're just getting in our way. Just change them. Change these laws. They're just a burden. Look, people expect us to act judiciously, so we're just going to change the law. I know you got some concerns. We could do some nefarious things once we've changed it. I know, but you can trust us, right? Like, we've proven ourselves that we're totally trustworthy. And sure, Mark Carney might get a few contracts, but that's just because you trust us to make these decisions. And we're just going to use it sparingly. And we know that it could be a real bad thing. And if Pierre Poilievre gets in, though, then now what if he's got a company and he's giving these contracts to his companies? Now it's a bad thing, right? It's like just stupid. Just keep the law the way that it is. Conflict of interest is still a principle that everybody understands and wants to keep there. And oh my goodness, shame on this government. Again, thousands of examples. That's all the time we got for the show today. We might have to do the deep dive into the Y-Files and all of the free energy projects that got kiboshed over the years tomorrow or on a subsequent show. But stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. And we'll be back same time, same place, on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. Have a really great Wednesday. Hump Day, everyone. Ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.